Yeah.
All right. All right, good morning and welcome to the opening of our 2025 budget session. If we could all rise for the pledge. Donna, will you kick us off? Donna.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Hughes. Here. Mr. Webb. Mr. Flanagan. Present. Mr. Mokel. Here. Mr. Cantz. Yes. Mr. Wyatt. Present. Ms. Piper.
Here. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started with the public hearing. Do we have anyone that wishes to speak before we open our budget discussions? All right, hearing none, we'll move on. I believe the auditor has auditor's office has a little presentation for us. All right. Oh, okay. All right, we have a motion by Bill and a second by Dan to close the public hearing. Roll call, please.
Mr. Webb. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz.
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Bill.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes. All right, now we're going to move on to the auditor's presentation. All right, so this year we do want to focus on the positive. We are better off than we were last year. Starting out, the ending balance for 2024 in general is 9.3 million, which is 2.2 million more than it was last year. We had a tax increase of approximately 2.7. However, after caps, it's really 1.9. Our max levy with allowable adjustments is around 32.4 million. And after 8.3 million in cap loss, that brings our tax levy down to approximately 25 million. We did over budget lit this year by 1.3 million, based off of last year's amount that we received, and we have not received the lit totals for 2025 yet.
What was that number?
1.3 mil. It's on your chart.
Yeah, it would be great if we just followed along on this, I suppose, huh?
And we do have a more simpler chart in the bottom right if you want to try and follow along for like this last part. On our tax levy, we are going in over 968,761.
Where do I see that?
It is in that little box right down here at the bottom.
Oh, okay, I got you.
And moving on to general, we are mandated to have an operating balance of 6 million at all times, with a proposed ending balance for 2025 being around 3 million, and us going over our tax levy. We will need to reduce general by approximately 3.9 million from the request. So with needing to reduce our lit and the general, that leaves us with around 2.5 million in minimum reductions.
There was an ask that we had asked Jessica and I relative to that 6 million number. Did we ever look at that? Ed? Yes. We're actually going to increase that. Because our operating costs are going to increase. So, liability insurance, which has went up a lot, and utilities, our operating costs are going to increase. Do we know how much? We're estimating to increase it to $500,000.
$500,000 or $1 million?
$500,000. So it's going to go up from 6 to 6.5.
I was listening to the commissioners meeting on Monday, and I feel like they had claimed that it was almost $1 million just for the salaries that they approved on Monday. So salaries are big. We need to make sure that we always, that 6.5 is covering salaries, it's covering any other operating costs.
What was that for? being
We were
done
it was just one of those expenses that they read off, and I was surprised to hear it was nearly $1 million.
in one swoop.
Yeah,
So, so we've been actually operating between $7 and $7.5 million of operating costs at this point. So during your council meetings, you get that report. So we've been, maintaining at least a mil and a half more than what we've needed. So with that being the case, I think the general fund came out towards you see it there, 3.4 million roughly. If we add the additional $500,000, that brings us down to allow you to increase spending over last year's budget right at $3 million, 2.9. You can spend
I thought we were 1.3 over budget last year.
what's that?
That was lit.
that was lit.
That was lit. Okay.
So I'm talking about general fund now.
Okay.
So the general fund, you can actually spend 2.9 million more than you did last year.
You know, the one thing that bothers me about that is, 2023, we had, a budget, and then, interpret this correctly, 2024, this year, our budget was less than it was last year. Is that correct? I mean, our
I don't
income,
know off the top of my head.
income?
If you say so, I don't know without pulling them.
That was the COVID year with that art money and everything else, so I think.
No, what he's saying is we didn't have a surplus last year.
The commissioner gave us $1.3 million, didn't they?
They allowed us to have the interest
Right.
off of off the ARPA money.
There's no loan.
And that was to balance the budget.
Well, that was essentially, yes, we didn't have to make any personnel cut.
So, I'm sorry for interrupting. Of the 2.5 that you indicated that we have to spend, seems to me like, correct me if I'm wrong, we got 1.3 that we need to make up just to keep our books balanced from last year.
1.3 though is the lit.
Still, when it,
It's gonna have to go in, some of that's going to, I mean, we'll have to do some of that into general. I mean, because we've been overspending in lit for a while now, I think.
how did we get the levy from 32 million down to 25 million? I mean, what caused that drop?
It was the tax cap. If you look at your chart over on the right-hand column, your bottom yellow, the proposed cap, circuit breaker loss, 2025 tax levy. They total $8,320,001. Bottom yellow on the right.
Post cap, circuit breaker loss.
So if you take the column from the left, you subtract the column on the right, it equals the far right column.
Generally speaking, what's the reason for the increase? For the ability, for the excess, I should say, for the ability to, is it the property tax components?
Now the proposed tax amount that we will receive in 2025
Mhm.
raised over 3.
And real quick, going in
And
over,
then also, I'd like to point out that she stated the proposed ending balance for 2024 is like 2.2, I think, to be exact, more than what we were ending with 2023 going into 2024. Because it always takes from your ending balance and then you add in the next year's revenues and taxes, you know what I mean? So we're already starting out ahead, because I will say you guys' spending has been way less this year compared to last year. So your balance has been higher on a regular basis as well.
I did notice that our appropriations were pretty low this year.
I made a list so Matt and I could take a look at it, and we were down quite a bit.
Ed, you indicated that, you needed an extra $500,000. Is that in the budget, or is that something that we will get to when we get into the budget itself? Or
Well,
is insurance another item that you mentioned?
yeah, that's the reason we have to increase it, because of the increase in those costs.
Is that in the budget, or is that something?
Yeah, that's in this, that's figured in this, total of 2.9 million.
Basically, if I could break this down, maybe easier for you to understand.
If it's in the budget, then we'll just deal with it when we get there.
It's on your chart. When you're talking about, the amount that you need to reduce, that's the amount, that the departments have all put in their request, okay? So the total request for general increased by 7,300,588. So when she's talking about what that needs reduced to, she brought up 3.8. So if Ed is wanting to add 500,000 to that, or really we're at 3.9, weren't we? So then you're looking at 4.4.
That was
Okay.
his question, I think.
Reduced from the request. Do you understand? So therefore, when he's talking about the amount that's left to work with, I guess is the best way to put it. I mean, no one says you have to, account for every penny of it. That would be your 7.3 minus up the 4.4, and that leaves you the difference of what you're working with in a positive manner. Does that help explain?
Yeah, I think it's helpful, but I guess my concern relative to that number is the reasons it happened this year and what the 3 to 5 year sort of, what's the next 3 years look like from revenue standpoint. Can we expect that level of?
Right, you do not have, like I said, that you do not have to spend all of it, account for every dollar of it. That's just saying what is available at this point in time. But you do have to take into considerations things that might come up, or the fact that you might want to appropriate more, or, there's all kinds of things to take into consideration, but that's what you have to work with at this point in time based on these figures.
Yeah, but the main driver of the revenue needs to be consistent, right?
Right,
So
and-
if our
and
revenue is up,
taxes, yeah, taxes are, based on the proposed amounts, that amount has went up based on the, we don't have the new CNAPs in, but based on the assessed values is what that means, sorry,
Right.
certified net assessed value. Based on those and the rate of that's how a proposed comes about. So that's what they're figuring it on, and it's looking like, am I right, about 3.2? Was it 3.2 more than last year? You take that, you add that to the 2.2 number that we have as an ending balance at the end of this year than what we had last year, you're over 5.
Mhm.
So that's how the numbers come about.
okay,
Who set the threshold at 6 million?
That was set prior to me, and the person who did this job before, in fact, he's here, that she found that was a good solid number that needs to be in, I believe you came up with that amount, a good solid number to keep in our general at all times in order to make all bills, because it may look like to you guys at the end of the month that we have a lot in there, but when you're paying out before anything's like coming in, you know what I'm saying? It's a back and forth thing with paying out all the time, because we're constantly paying things every single week, whether it be utilities or 2-week department payments or insurance premiums. Like when our insurance premium hits, I know last year we were so low, like I had to rush and get the advanced draw done in order to have money so that we didn't, we weren't under when it came to paying our insurance premium, of when that hits versus how much we have at that point in time. So there's constantly things going out. So that figure was based on all those expenditures that are paid out of the auditor's office in order to keep things afloat at all times.
And to avoid having to borrow.
Right.
do we have like a 3-year look at the monthly balance to see, I mean, then shouldn't that really kind of dictate what that $6 million figure should be?
We did.
Okay,
That's how we come up with the number.
okay.
Increase by $500,000 for next year.
Cause it's not mandated, to be clear.
Well, that's my word for meaning
Okay.
we, as a county,
I gotcha.
that's in our best interest to keep that there at all times.
With the additional, expenditures that, we just talked about, is 6 million even the right number?
Well, based on the reports we ran and the numbers that we went over, that's why Ed is suggesting to you this morning to increase that by 500,000. So the homework has been done, and based on what we're seeing, we feel like, I mean, you're welcome to raise that even more. You want to keep 7 in it at all times, we can do 7 at all times.
No, I mean, we should be keeping the bare minimum, absolute minimum. That's why, I think that's why everyone's asking, because $30,000 should be, in terms of the operating balance itself. We wanna make a fund or say we're gonna keep more because we want a rainy day fund or whatever, that's that's something
Well,
else.
now, we know it's gonna be 6.5, so I'm wondering, I'm thinking that's not gonna be enough. If it came close this year to where you were
It was
thinking, you're gonna-
last year,
okay, last year,
last year.
scraping to pay the
Yeah,
bills.
we were scraping, at
Are we
that
current
point.
with the bills?
A question on this, does the amount you're suggesting needs to be cut out of it, does that take into account the supplemental distribution?
No, because it's not suggested to count in the supplemental. Like last year, same thing I told you last year, the state does not recommend that you count on your supplemental. Because it's a maybe, always a maybe.
I mean, this year was pretty substantial. Certified distribution was $638,000. 65, economic development, 554. It was over $1 million this year.
This supplemental.
Yeah.
I mean, you can consider it. We don't consider it on paper, let's put it that way.
Fair enough.
But is that why, even though we've over budgeted, is that why
Yeah.
we haven't overspent?
You haven't overspent, you can't overspend, Peter's not gonna let that happen in the fund, so, you can only spend what's there. It's just a matter of what the budget request total minus what we actually received just last year, less the supplemental.
Which I think is probably why, Matt, if you remember, when we were at our statewide council training, someone made the comment that they never use lit for salaries. I thought that was interesting. All right, do we have any additional questions for anyone in the auditor's office, or? I don't know what we're headed towards now, so that's helpful. And thank you for the positive spin. But it's still a lot to cut, so definitely a little bit better than last year, so that's positive. All right.
One more thing I'll point out on the chart is if you look in the green sections,
Yeah.
that's your total amount of increase or decrease per fund. It's your grand total at the very bottom. And that includes general, other, and grant. Of course, grants are in the other, but we separated those out from the regular other.
Yeah. Alright, do you have any more questions, team? Want to take a minute and digest our spreadsheet or? Pleasure.
Well, yeah, to be clear, we just got this, so, so that's why there's probably more questions or thought needs to be given into it. I don't think, you know, there's some things I probably wanna ask, but we can wait and do that later. As we go along.
We got a long day ahead of us, so. I'll just make the call. We'll go ahead and start with, extension. No, take that back. Data. You're at 9:45, 8:45, so we're a little off schedule, but that's all right. IT. Page 1. Yeah.
There already are. Right?
What?
We officially open.
Yeah, we're in. Yeah, we're at page 1.
Found that when I sent you, so.
Oh.
Employee column, it was filled out.
Are the big increases in, repairs and maintenance software? Jim, what's that all about?
Which line? 362? Yes, here.
362 and 371?
Okay, in 362, we, added $34,000, which I transferred out of the 364 account. I did some account, realigning with the changes that the auditor did with the accounts.
Right.
And so I moved money around that I was paying for certain things out of one account and make sure they're back into an account that's lining up with what they want to see. So basically, it's increased because I removed 34,000 out of the 364 account, which was used for any rentals or leases that we had up into that account. The other item was $30,760 for the maintenance for the HR module and the employee portal that the auditor's implementing this year. And
Will that be an annual?
yes. The other item, is I got $40,000 listed in there for our VMware, which is our main software we run all of our servers on. VMware sold out to another vendor at the end of last year, and we've been trying to get them to negotiate with us, what the new costs are gonna be. I got a preliminary number, last week, and it's a lot more than the $40,000 I put in here, but I've got a call with them to discuss the reasonings for it. But, it's gonna go up because the vendor that bought it out is restructuring and putting in, a new, not the same software, but they're just realigning how they're gonna license it, and it's, kind of at the mercy of the vendor at this point in time, and it was too short notice to look at another solution, to try to, replace hardware and software. That's an item that's kind of on the table yet with the vendor.
So, other than the HR module and the other module that we approved last month, this is really just a maintenance budget. It's not, you're not bringing on any new items or.
No, other than the, HR and employee portal. That's the new items I brought on.
Which I'd like to bring up as a major gap, I think, in where we are with our spend on IT. Right now, last year was the same story, basically. Jim's got a laundry list. I spent some time with the IT committee, and we spent some time with a cybersecurity person within the last couple weeks to talk about the gaps that exist in our security primarily, in addition to some of the gaps with operating systems and other potential needs for that. Single sign-on, some other, major components of traditional IT security that the county does not currently have, and we never budget for. So I know we're not really getting into that just today, but, thanks for pointing that out, Bill, because it is a maintenance only. You really put in for nothing, correct? Nothing new, which is a gap. And maybe when we cycle back around, we can talk about the low-hanging fruit or biggest bang for our buck options that may exist to try to tie off some of the things that we've discussed. Is that fair? Yes.
Same would be true on page 24, the project. It's just keeping us where we are.
On the, IGS budget?
Yep.
Okay. Basically, it's the same, contractual services for 311. There's an increase there, 5,500. And, a 6% increase for the hardware maintenance on that account in 361. And, and there again, in realigning the accounts up, I moved $48,000 in the 362 account, which was paying for part of the contractual, and moved it up into the 311 account. So it's just a lateral move.
Where does the money for you and your team come from? Like, there's out of the commission
Budget, approve the contract, and it all comes out of the county IT budget.
so contractual services includes yours
Yes.
also. The other thing I wanted to bring up or just lay on the table is, because I didn't get a chance to even talk about this with the commissioners, but I know that the commissioners have pushed back all of the IT spend onto the departments. I think that's a completely inappropriate way of dealing with our technology. They're spending it individually, they're spending it in haphazard ways, and because that's what they need to do, they're robbing Peter to pay Paul from a IT standpoint, buying computers, not keeping up with computers, things. It, to me, it's an insecure and unmanageable way of managing our IT spend. I think that next year that's something we need to also target, trying to bring that out of the department budgets and back into the IT component and making sure that we're allocating it and buying it as a group. Both
More buying
IT,
power.
IT, phones, copiers, all that stuff that we talk about and everyone comes before us and tries to, try to find. It's just a burden, number one, I think, to the department heads, and two, is just not a good way of accounting for how our technology spend is being spent. So we may have an asset list that says we got this many computers, but we really can't target how much money we're spending all across the board very well or very easily. So how do we track that? So that's something I do think that next year we also need to make sure we're addressing.
Agree. All right, do you have any additional questions for Jim? All right, I think we're good. Thank you. All right, now we're on to Purdue Extension. Page 12. We've got an increase here just under $5,000. The contractual services, that's just our contract with Purdue,
Yeah, that's out of my hand, that's
right?
given to me by the university.
Although when we met with President Chang, I did ask him for more money.
Right, good, I appreciate that, he needs to hear it from more than me.
Yes.
I appreciate you being a part of that. Yeah, the only other increase in here is, for the first and second deputy. We put a 3% increase in for them. Discretionary budget's flat, has been for several years now. That's getting harder and harder. At some point, I'm probably gonna be at a point where I'm asking for money in discretionary too, but we're scraping by as of now.
What's in your 361 account, please?
361. Repairs and maintenance, that is our computer lease with the university. All the computers that staff has, those are university computers, so we have an annual lease agreement with the university for those.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
how many?
how many computers? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7.
And if they have to be changed out, that's something that the, university takes care of,
Yeah,
updating,
what's that?
updating.
Yeah, we're on basically it's a 2 or 3 year term with the computers, so some of them cycled off last year and were replaced, some of them will cycle off next year and be replaced.
And what's in your 371, please? Rental lease.
Rental. That is our printer contract. That covers the lease of the printer and the copies through the course of the year.
Excuse me, our salary study listed a position as office manager.
Mhm.
Is that the first deputy or?
Correct.
The first deputy?
First deputy would be the office manager, yes.
And in your 390 account, please.
That is the county's annual support of the 4-H Youth Development Program. There's a $10,000 line, or roughly, was it $9,000 line to support the 4-H Youth Development Program and the fair.
And looking at the internal base salary, the salary study, first deputy, internal base salary would be 36,295, which actually would be less than what's shown here. Even under the 2024 budget, it doesn't square up with what's in the study. And the secretary position, 34,984, which is a bit more than what you're requesting.
Where did you get the 37,900, or what did you say from that? I thought it was 37,950 for the
You're
first.
talking about what they're currently being paid. I think when they did the salary study, I feel like it was like 2023's.
Is that it?
I think that might be what it is.
That's correct.
Okay.
Well, for the secretary position, it has the correct, the base, 2024 base salary, 33,152. as an exercise in my head, I would put the first deputy at what's shown here is the 2024 budget, 36,873. So that position would not be cut. And the secretary, I would move up to 34,984. If we're using the salary study as a template. 34 what, Mr. Hughes? 34,984.
And what did you say about the other one?
Either 36,873.
I think I'm lost here.
Yeah, me too. So, keep those deputies' salary the same, correct?
Yes.
For 2025 would be the 2024 number.
Yes. The salary study would move it to 36,295, which is less than what they're making this year, and I think
That's,
philosophically, we've said we're not gonna do that.
No.
yeah, true, but aren't we reviewing,
Wait, there's a secretary in comment A
Right?
with the,
he's talking about the base salary, 33,152, that matches the base salary for the extension office manager shows 36,137, which is a couple $100 less than what the budget, what they are being paid this year.
you think that's just a typo?
Excuse me, that, he said 36,295. That's the number that Mr. Hughes read for the salary study on the deputy. And he said that was less than
2024 base and the salary study says 36,137.16.
If you're leveling that number, that's the 36,295, but that's not the 36,137, which is the base that's listed.
I don't have a column. I'm gonna have a column that says double. Yeah.
What was the salary of the first deputy office manager?
You want the internal, or do you mean what they said?
What the study said, yes.
Said their amount, their base, what they're currently, well, it's a 23 number. So it said 36,137.16. Internal. If the internal leveling is at 36,295. Which is less what they're making in 24, and we said we wouldn't reduce anyone's salary. I'm following now.
Yeah, I was kind of, I knew that they were both less than the current salary, I'm kind of confused with them. 37,295, yeah. Dean pointed out that neither position received an increase, but
Sorry, you're our first guinea pig.
Right, no, it's all good, all good. Start small, right?
Yeah. Any other questions?
Well, just so everyone knows what we're doing up here, like, I have a spreadsheet that I shared, like Matt and I are using, and we have like columns, so we can figure out like what the internal leveling number is, and like what that midpoint was, and just kind of being able to track compared to this, where we're falling.
So what I'm hearing is the first deputy is basically in line a little bit above, and the secretary's position would need to be adjusted to come into line. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
A little bit, yeah. So, I think that's our only other, I mean, it's not really a question, but that's kind of where we're settling, I think, here. I mean, everything with salaries will come down, I think, a little bit later in the day or tomorrow,
No doubt.
but just trying to make sure we all are on the same page on, and I think we've been pretty clear that we're not gonna reduce anyone's salary if it doesn't match this, right? Like if it's, but it may not get adjusted, so, all right, do we have any other? Yeah.
I just wondered what you're wanting me to do with these comments that you're making, like, do you want me to put these adjustments in,
Not yet,
just make notes?
yeah,
Okay, alright,
Maybe we'll make it go faster later.
okay.
yeah. But for now, I think we're good. All right, do you have anything else for Justin? All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, we got one more? Okay.
One other question, you're showing a negative balance on 361 line. As of June 30.
Yeah, so, Purdue's billing isn't always great, and we got hit with one of our invoices for 23 came after the rollover end of the year, so we were billed for one of our 23 computer payments in 24, so now we're backwards on that. That being said, we're gonna be able to make an internal transfer to cover it, but that's why we're upside down on that line right now.
But you don't think you'll need any more money coming year than what you budgeted for this?
No, it was simply because the invoice came due too late in the year to get processed in time to go into the 23 calendar year. And, because of that, we incurred it this year.
You haven't, the contractual services, does that all come at the end of the year? The 94,565, there's zero spent today.
Oh, that must be, I don't know, I'm not sure when that,
You said that's the contract with Purdue.
that's the university's contract for services, yeah.
Zero balance.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been-
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah, it comes out at the beginning, I would expect.
that should be 100%, not 0%.
I think so.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, treasurer, Mr. Polk,
Good morning.
7. Morning.
This one, Elizabeth or whoever's, I don't know who's,
He's checking balances, if that's what you're checking. You got it.
keep it. I want to go through the non-employee line items for ending 2023 numbers, not right this second, but after Brad's done. Have at it, Brad.
Okay. Pretty much straightforward. Probably the big difference that a lot of you will ask about is professional services. That went from 10,000 to 35. The 10 is the same as last year for the banking fees. So far this year, we've not had to dip into them as much, so that's good. We'll probably give some money back on that. But if interest rates change, which I think I'm anticipating they will next year,
they'll be dropping, and that, our fees are based off of that, of how they're used, locally. And so, that's why it was left at 10,000. The 25,000, is for attorney fees for the, basically for tax sale. That was in the commissioner's budget last year, and this year I'm putting it in mine.
Why is that?
Just so it's clear, I mean, where I'm paying it, you know, I'm being billed for it, and then we have to give the bill to the commissioners, so we thought it'd be just easier to
For the
do it
tax
in my
sale,
office.
you said?
Kind of cut that out.
For the tax sale, you said?
Yes, yes.
If they've always been paying it, what's changed?
It's just to me, it's cleaner, where I'm not getting billed, and then I have to run it upstairs and wait on them to do it. I can present it directly to the auditor. And then obviously it'll have to be approved by the commissioners, but it's just cleaner. To me, it's cleaner. So, I mean, that's up to you guys, but.
So either it comes out of our budget or it comes out of their budget?
Well, their budget is our
It's all
budget.
general fund. Yeah, it's the same budget. It's just, we're switching it from commissioners to mine.
Where was it before?
And the commissioner's
Commissioners.
budget in county general, which is the same budget essentially.
Got it.
And then the other, increase,
I'm sorry, Brett, was that something that you discussed with the commissioners, or you just,
Ed and I discussed it, and we thought it would be a better,
so we don't know if it's been
Us.
cut from what their request was?
that I do not know.
Okay. What's the new Prime Master? Salary study master? Remind me to break. Now with the salaries, did you go with the internal base, or did you go with the midpoint, or what was your philosophy on those increase? Do you recall?
Um,
I can see internal base on, that's the assistant bookkeeper. Has an internal base of 36,295. The head bookkeeper, head cashier, cashiers 1 and 2 are the internal base. I'm not sure where the chief deputy comes from.
so the chief deputy, was at taking, the average salaries for, treasurer. The average salaries based on all the counties. And then it was times about 80%. Right at 80%.
Outside of the salaries, do we have any additional questions? Let's see, have we done any? Had 0 appropriations so far this year, thank you.
Yes. And I really don't anticipate, except for we are going to look at, replacing probably one of the laptops, but that will be out of the mobile home, the permit fees that you guys approved back starting in June. We've built probably close to, I know it's over 1,000. in that fund, so that would be the only appropriation, but it's actually through the mobile home fees, so. That's kind of what it was built in there for, to help us, offset some things that we can't replace on a, on the schedule, because the laptops are from 2020 and probably replacing the first one this year, and then like to replace, I have three, so the next two and the next 2 years, so out of that fund. The only other increase I had was, conferences and training. I bumped that a little bit because I will be going to a third conference this year for the legislative. I was appointed to the legislative for the Treasurers Association, and so
Congratulations.
I will be doing that. And then also our dues and subscriptions, they bumped that up a little bit of what we pay to bond for myself and my chief deputy for the association for the year. Because last year we actually had to transfer money a little bit to cover it. Kind of caught us off guard. Caught everybody off guard, I should say.
How are your other computers and printers? What's the life on those?
We're on our replacement plan, and we're kind of sticking with that. Every 4 years. Yeah, every 4 years we're replacing.
Are you replacing everything or just some as you go?
We're trying to do like a 4, and then the next year a 3, and then a 4 and a 3, and then throwing the laptops in there as well. So, I did want to, just for your information, I did I track the interest course each year, and as of the 31st, with the ARP money, we're sitting at about 2.57 million. If we take the ARP interest out, it's 2.1 million. And so projecting out the rest of the year, without ARP money is 3.2 million on the interest. And with the ARP is about 3.84 million. So hopefully the rates stay where they're at. That's what we're hoping.
Most people would disagree with that, but.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna happen. I mean, I know they've talked and they keep pushing it back, and, I'm hoping it's not until, if they're gonna do anything in December, that'd be all right, I guess. If they gotta drop it a little bit, so.
Interest rates were a little bit higher. Do you have some longer term?
I do not have anything in long term, mainly, because we were getting higher interest on liquid. I mean, everything's liquid, and that's kind of what we've got to keep a lot of it, obviously, for you guys to work with. So I don't have anything in CDs now. I see the rates starting. I watch them pretty much on a daily basis. If I start seeing them start dropping, then I will go to the finance board for approval to go ahead and look at it, maybe a 6-month or a year CD on some of the money.
What other funds do you manage? Like, is this tax redemption, tax sales surplus? Any of these, are these under your purview?
Yeah.
Whose are they?
The auditor takes care of all the funds.
Say again?
The auditor maintains all the funds.
Well, I know you maintain them, but I mean, like,
Is that the question?
yeah, I mean, but in terms of like the monies that are in some of these funds,
So multiple funds could be in one account.
mm-hmm.
He's the one that invests money in the accounts.
I'm sorry, say
So the
that.
treasurer invests the money that's in the accounts.
In the accounts.
Right. Sorry, I have a short-term hearing loss in my right ear, so I'm not hearing very well. Okay, thanks. And then I wanted to quickly get, 2023 balances on everything that's not an employee. The 2023 ending numbers for, Brad's, like, the professional services line. 310. No, what ended in 2023? What did he end in 2023 with?
What are you on now?
I'm still on
No, which line?
310, or ID 310, so the professional services there.
Today I'll send you my file again. And then if you want, I'll try to keep up on it.
And actually, Peter, while you're looking for that, I mean, I don't have any, does anybody else have anything for Ed?
I think on that professionals, the services, it was probably under bank fees at that time. It was like,
Yeah, we might be having some conflicts there too.
yeah, at 312, so that was the one I did
The
in.
exercise.
I did in some with money, and it went back to
Did
the general
around.
fund.
Yeah,
That was, again, because the bank fees were not as much, we weren't charged as much because of our investments and stuff.
I guess what I'm trying to understand from bigger line items particularly is, you ended the year 2023 with X.
Mhm.
The money went back in the general fund, you encumbered it, to pay for other things, like, just to get a sense of, where are people ending their year?
Mhm.
Because if you're budgeting
Yeah.
more than you need, then we should look at that.
Yeah.
If you're not budgeting enough, we should look at that too.
Right.
You don't have a very many line items, so it's maybe not that
Yeah,
big of a deal, but
maybe six of them plus
Right.
employees, so it's not real tough.
I guess it's a good opportunity, just like this is kind of the expectation. I know I alluded to it, I guess it was in our July meeting, about looking at all the revenue streams and trying to get a good idea. We really want to give you all raises, right? Like, we want to be able to do that, so we're just trying to make sure we have a good understanding of all the moving parts, a better understanding of all the moving parts, and what those encumbrances looked like, right? I know we have some expenses that the encumbrances work out really great for, but to Matt's point, like, if there was some extra money, just reduce it in the front end here, so,
recapturing now, so
yeah.
apply them to.
Right.
Can you give us an estimate of what you might anticipate revenue-wise for the, mobile home?
I think we were on pace for because we started June 1st, so I mean, we're gonna have 7 months in there. Probably around 16 to 1800 for the 7 months. For the 7 months for this year, and so looking probably 2700, probably 2600 next year, if things stay on pace. Yeah,
Feedback?
none whatsoever. I've not heard. I've not been called out of my office to go defuse anything, but no, we've not had anybody say, "Well, what are you doing this for?"
Where do we
You know,
capture those?
they don't maybe send the check in because they forget about it, and so my head cashier just sends them a little email and they send the check. So
Where do those fees go to?
they go to the general fund.
They're just in here? Okay, they're not,
Yeah.
I thought we just put those back in the general fund.
We did, and then with kind of
If you need them, you have to come ask for it.
right, exactly, yeah. But and honestly, there's going to be hopefully 1 year that we don't need it at all, and so that might.
So
Right.
mostly it's the time you put into it.
Yeah, it's just replacing. We're just replacing equipment is all we're doing that.
Filling in paper.
And paper, yeah, I mean, that's an additional paper cost that we don't, have and obviously for that, so, yeah, it's just equipment.
equipment.
What was the office supplies again? I'm sorry. Thank you.
So that was the professional services is what you said you gave back.
Yeah, that's bank fees basically, is what that is. So, yeah, I didn't,
I don't have anything else for anybody else have
So
anything?
we're comparing apples to apples for 2023. The budget there requested 15,000, and then in 24, Brad only asked for 10,000.
Yes.
So, I mean, to have $4,000 left over and reduce his request by 5,000, I just want to make sure we're comparing. And then also for, I think it was printing, 23, the budget was 14,000, and now the request is 12,000.
Thanks, Brian.
so I can kind of on the printing, we basically pay 10 to 15% of the total cost of the tax bills that go out each year. Those go out in the spring. That's about 35,000. I anticipate them actually going up a little bit because of postage. So probably maybe 1,000, maybe 2,000 more. The commissioners pay, as they do in every other county in the state, pay a majority of that tax bill, or the printing costs on the tax bills. We do about 10 to 15% of that. And then we also have other printing, letters and things that we send out, demand letters, surplus letters, things like that. So that's the printing costs, but we were not using all of it from 22. When I came into office, I noticed that, so I have reduced that, from the 23 budget to 25, yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Council, if I may, I did find the revenue for the treasurer that we reported, we have 3,000 reported for next year for the mobile home.
Yeah, there.
I have lots of extra pencils in case anybody needs it.
No.
And they're pretty colors.
Say again where your postage, how do you expense your postage?
So that is when we send out the tax bills. We use a vendor. That is rolled into the cost of the design of the tax bills, what has to be changed, all the proofs, the actual tax bills, and then the postage is all rolled into that price.
What price?
About 35,000.
Where is that expended?
The commissioners do most of that. I only do about 10%, so that's where mine comes out. That's how the printing cost is about 10% to 15% of my, budget is out of my budget.
All right, do we have anything else for Brad at this time? All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Surveyor. We are on page 11 for the first We just got a slight increase in our salaries.
Your salary number? Average. That's what they told me to add on it in an email, I believe. So it was a 4% adjustment, it looked like. So, sorry, Teddy, showed you the two offices. Something like that. Yeah, the Linda gets paid out of perpetuation. Chief Deputy Inspector, that's your chief deputy. Correct.
I'm pretty good with this one. What else? Any additional questions on the fair fund on page 11? All right, let's move on to page 26.
Professional services. Get there. This one is, oh, pre-K. That's for, it's new evidently because it's 0 last year or else you did. Yeah, the state came out and said we had to record our meetings if they're in here. And we've had one meeting in the, what's it called downstairs where the finance meetings are.
Yeah, the conference room down there.
And we had a couple people come into the meetings and we need to have good recording so this place does real well because I'm going back to 70s looking at minutes. And also, I think for a safety reason for the people on the board. Orders area that this presents to the board. Plus, it's just a more professional setting, so instead of moving into a different room, I thought it would be better for the drainage board and the surveyor's office to still have the drainage board meetings in here. Plus, we'd have to pay for them to be recorded. So.
Alright. Are we good on that one? And page 61.
Is
Perpetuation.
are both his things listed as simultaneous?
Yeah, but one in perpetuation, that's why there's two here.
Computer operator is your other assistant. Correct, yes. And your folks don't keep the same hours as the county building, additional hours. What's that now? Your staff doesn't keep the same office hours as the rest of the county building? Oh, they do, 8:30 to 4. Salary study has them at annual work hours at 1950, everybody else is at 16.9. I wouldn't know why that is unless it's counting inspector and I out during rain events or something. I don't know why that would even come up. I'm out, which that doesn't matter. I'm elected and stands out sometimes after hours with contractors, but I don't know. No, I'm just talking about no, Linda and Jennifer both work from 8:30 to 4. It's just like everybody else. Thank you.
that's a comment. So then that adjusts that internal number.
$16.90 it should be.
Yeah, that would be equals this.
They're both already over the.
If I can get,
Maybe you had a number.
yeah, it's 5%, but sometimes it's hard to get, local land surveyors to do it. But I did have a sit down with Ashton's a few months ago, trying to get program up and going, so they just know when they have time, they can just go out and do it. They're not as busy as they were, but I mean, they're still busy from COVID, they all got behind, so.
I knew you had a number set.
Yeah.
I just couldn't remember.
Not changing those numbers. Sorry, Tommy.
All right,
Mapping over here.
I'm just standing up here staring at a snack, no big deal. Help yourself, take your money. Lots of coffee and donuts. No. Jessica, what are you looking at?
So, what Matt and I are working on is,
Yeah, I know that.
yeah, just checking, well, we had to readjust the numbers from the salary study, because they provide us with, like, based on the, job description,
Yeah.
the job category, and what, level they are.
Yeah.
They have a rate, right? They figured out for that bucket of people what that hourly rate is, and
Yeah.
because we still recognize that 1950 was wrong, the spreadsheet we have doesn't have the formulas in it, so I'm adding the formulas to get the correct numbers for what the internal base and the internal midpoint would be at the respective rates. So that makes for those two individuals, if you guys want to write these down, the midpoint at 34,984 and a penny. Yeah, and then that low 34,984.01.
And that's the mid rate for,
Yep. That is the mid. No, I take that back. That is the internal base. That is the that is
internal midpoint,
the internal.
external.
The internal is 34,984.01. The external midpoint now becomes 36,015.59.
And what, positions exactly what?
Those are the two office assistants. One's in perpetuation and one is in. I'm gonna rearrange and put level in front of midpoint.
And the reason for that was again, the hours,
On the salary study for those 2 employees.
I don't know what that was.
All right.
Hey Pam. Hey you.
All right, do we have any additional questions for surveyor's office? All right, thank you, Tommy.
Hey, you guys have a wonderful day.
You too.
Thank you, Tom.
All right, assessor,
Ask for,
10 minutes,
10 minutes.
10-minute recess, we can do that. All right, we'll be back here at 10.
Thank you.
Yep. It says that wall clock's a couple minutes fast, so.
Allegedly.
Well, I'm looking at my, it's like a wire, so. All right, so now we are
It's back in session?
back in. That's our page 14. So it looks like we add some certifications.
Okay, James Carmichael County Assessor, the lines 123 and 124 are flip-flopped, actually.
Okay,
So flip-flop those, and the reason why there's a $1,000 increase in those two line items is we have two people going for certification at the beginning of the year.
If I may,
yeah,
we realized that they were out of numerical order, so in VIP, that's what they were changed to.
okay.
And even after they were changed, I did make sure to say that those are now in the correct order.
They're correct now.
Just
Okay.
doesn't show it on my sheet. Okay, very good. I'd like to recognize that Ron Quakenbush, former council members here, used to have a lot of fun with me back in the mid-2000s.
Welcome, Ron.
Thanks, Ron. That's right. Thank God you can't do that anymore.
I'm assuming postage and freight is just because postage has gone up.
Yeah. Now, as far as the postage is concerned, it's in two different budgets you're gonna be reviewing today.
Okay.
I didn't spend as much as last year because the number of, notice of assessments was down due to the lack of changes in the, ratio study. So, and that can change from any given year, so, attending a conference last week, they said they're going to, give us new cost tables, is what we use to assess property, which could, trigger an increase or decrease in every parcel in the county in the next, 2 years. So we don't know what'll happen then. We'll figure that out later.
But you haven't used any of this
What's that?
fund initially? Or you haven't used any money this year so far, is that right?
Now, my money was reused in the, early part of the year. And if I have any left over, I will encumber that into the next year because I don't know what to anticipate or how much we're even going to send out next year. So this year, we sent out somewhere between, I think it was 33,000 notices, which was about 15,000 less than the previous year. Next year, I may send out 40,000 or 45,000. I don't know. Just depends on what kind of movement there is. I think the market is kind of stagnating right now, in my opinion. Things are sitting a lot longer, even though the prices are still high. So we'll see what kind of effect that has. Your staff people, you taken that for the salary study, so they're all the same figure in the proposed budget. Does that make sense to you? No. That's just what my interpretation of that study was. My problem with the study is that I have two individuals. One has been here for 31 years, another one been for 10, and their raises using this study was only about $300, $400, where others got average of $2,500. So that's the problem I had with that. Just a seniority factor. Yeah. As far as the job duties, so setting aside who's occupying those positions now, they're all comparable. Some of them require a little extra and certifications and that sort of thing. It depends on who can make changes in the system or not.
They're all comment B.
That's something you can do today or come back tomorrow?
Yeah, I think you're gonna get more of that as the day goes on, today and tomorrow, and I think it's something that needs to open up for discussion,
That those
go
employees,
through and figure out what's going on.
was the longevity figured into folks' base salaries in this study?
No,
So they still have longevity,
I still have longevity, and we have recognized that
okay,
that fact. Now, the one person gets, the 2000, or the one that's been around for 10 years, she gets, I think, $1,000 in longevity, where the other one gets the max, which I think is what, 2,500? Yeah. So there's a difference in there
yeah,
due to that, but there's been changes in the longevity. I just,
Sure.
they just don't get what they used to get.
What's the personal mobile home,
Personal property is business personal property that's turned in on an annual basis by companies that,
and it says personal mobile home?
and then mobile homes is tied in with that because it's personal property as well.
Okay.
those are the employees who are handling.
Yes, correct. You only put so many line items, explain all that.
Tanya, correct me if I'm wrong, but that the last three digits on the line number, 101 indicates an employee.
That's correct.
So if you ever see that, Dan,
Yeah, I
101, okay, it's a salary.
wondered why there were so many personal,
Oh, okay,
I knew they were employees, I just didn't know why we had personal mobile homes, not just mobile homes.
gotcha.
Repairs and maintenance, you drop that out. Your 362, repairs and maintenance software.
Yes, we take that from a different fund now. That would be the sales disclosure fund. And, that was probably set up where we were replacing some, equipment last year, and we're done with that, so we can pull that out of another account. If we need anything like a new monitor or something.
This question for council.
Yep.
Are we distinguishing any, in regards to pay for longevity? And is a person that's been here for 30 years get the same as a person that's been here for 3? That kind of where we're at, or?
Well, that's the base salary.
The base salary, they get the same, they get more because of longevity, we add that in. When are we adding that in?
There's a longevity line item, we don't add that in.
Okay.
It is under maybe our budget,
All right.
under the council budget.
I think it's important to note that longevity actually stopped in 2017, so we no longer pay out longevity. And we pay it for the people who had it, as far as new
Grandfathered.
employees.
Do they continue to earn it even?
They cap out at,
They do continue to earn it until they max out $2,500.
per year?
That's $2,500 per year for,
$100 for every year you've been here.
after 5 years it starts. So if anyone was hired 17 or before, would start, but it wouldn't start till 5 years after they've been employed. So anyone hired after that date, well, they wouldn't qualify or receive any type of longevity. They could be here 20 years and not get anything for it.
So in the 2015 reassessment fund, is that yours? Who's the department, 2015 reassessment?
No, Tim.
Yep, okay. There's longevity of $900.
Yeah, we have one employee that works out of the reassessment fund. So that has to come out of that fund's different than the, general fund. That's where the other employee was. It was, that's a 10-year
person that, their salary was only adjusted $369. I don't know, I guess we probably ought to take a look at it as you go through the day or whatever and through this process of, inflationary concerns and that sort of thing, and percentage of increase in salaries for at least a base of some type for some of these people that aren't getting, raises or very little raises due to the study.
Do you have any more questions for the assessor fund? We wanna go ahead and move over to reassessment on page 66.
Sorry, real quick. You transferred money into office supplies, is that this year, right?
Yeah, we just did that, last, session, your last month's session.
Okay. But then you left you're only, you didn't add anything to that
No,
for next year.
not gonna add anything additional, no.
What was that for, computers or something?
No, it was for office furniture. Yeah.
What's your schedule for replacing computers? Do you have you figured out one?
But last year we replaced them all. Yeah, so we're good.
Because some days I'll try and figure out a way to step them in, it's gonna be a bit hard.
Yeah. Have a monitor go out every once in a while, but we have funds available for that.
James, how many total in your office have level 2 certifications?
Right now we have 4.
And
Level 2, you said?
Yeah, level 2.
2 right now. Have 4 after the first of the year.
And what's it cost for them to maintain that?
Usually attending conferences, or
Credit hours, basically.
yeah, credit hours, 30 hours every 2 years, and then, about $400 to attend conferences. Some continuing ed's free online through, DLGF. So it just depends on if they go to conferences or not, and whether they can maintain those hours by just doing online. It's really difficult to do online and get all your hours over 2 years.
In your 2015 reassessment, the 362 line item, repairs and maintenance software, that's based on actual quotes, or are you just assuming it's gonna go up 5%?
That is the software maintenance contract for Exoff, which maintains our CAMA software. They, put in an increase this year of 5%, so that's what that entails, is a 5% increase.
Alright, what line was that?
362, page 66. What page, Bill?
66. Do we have a 2023 number on the, 2015 reassessment, the 311 contractual?
Budgeted or what we spent?
What we spent? contractual services line in the 2015 reassessment, 24.
14-311.
It was 314.
It's 00314-311.
That was the balance.
Those numbers again, please.
137, 512, 48. That's the only number I know.
Is that a reverting fund or not?
Just want to ask me a question?
The reassessment fund, is that a reverting fund? Is that what you asked? No. Is that a reverting fund?
Yes.
On your, 311 contractual services, are you anticipating that going up $140,000?
When that was, the contract was signed 2 years ago, that'll stay that way for the entire 4-year period.
I'm sorry, what was it for?
How's that?
What was it for, that contractual
Oh,
service?
that's, for general reassessment. That's the contract we use to do general reassessment.
That you're
You know,
paying?
field work, commercial structures.
You're paying people to do that.
His quote was we can't afford to hire the people to do it for the price they do it for.
That's correct. I'd have to hire about 5 more people. We'd have automotive costs, we'd have other costs, insurance and everything else.
But does that 137,000 roll over, or is that just a balance that's sitting out there?
I think that's the balance for now.
Well, at the end of the year, it was 137,
End of 23, they had a balance of 137.
and you're at 203 right now. Which is 51% of this year's budget, but
Yeah, I don't know why there would be a balance in there. The contract says what it says as far as what it is on an annual basis. It should be 100% expended. So we'll have to take a look at that.
that amount been encumbered and spent in 24. That's what I was trying to find my encumbrance on this.
I suppose it could be, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'll just highlight it, we can look at it later, it's fine.
Yeah.
Matt, it's a non-general one, so yeah, I know, I'm just,
But he's right. I mean, if they're saying leftover, like I said, it's a fund that rolls back into anyway, so encumbering it, it just depends on what you're using for, I suppose. If it rolls back in, it's, I guess, as broad as it is long.
Are there stipulations on what can be used, what you can spend that money on,
On the
reassessment,
311 account,
the whole fund.
the whole fund? Yeah, the whole reassessment fund.
oh, just for reassessment purposes.
Yeah.
I mean, anything has to do with reassessment. I can't intermingle those funds with my other fund.
Right.
I have to use it specifically for that.
You hire a body out of it?
Only for
I've
handling.
got one in it now. She's the one that handles all the appeals that I have.
That's in your, I don't see an employee in that.
Reassessment?
It was real property, 101. Yeah, 101.
Yeah, there's.
All right, thanks, Jim.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't see them coming.
What was the question, Bill?
I don't see any amount that was encumbered going into this year, Robin.
Moving on to recorder. Starting on page 8.
I wanted to share something just real quick, if I may.
Yeah.
That one of the girls in the office sent me this morning while I was getting ready, and I just felt like the timing of it was perfect. It was from her daily devotional, and it was Jeremiah 29:7. It said, "Pursue the well-being of the city I have deported you to. Pray to the Lord on its behalf, for when it thrives, you will thrive." And then Jeremiah 29:11, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans for your well-being, not for disaster, to give you a future and a hope." So I just thought the timing of that was perfect, and I just hope and I have faith that we're gonna get through this. We're gonna thrive.
We're gonna try.
Thank you for letting me share that.
Alright. There we are on page 8. Looks like the big thing is you put that deputy out of perpetuation back in this request.
It's always been included in both places, and
And
then
then, yeah.
decide where it's going to come out of.
Sure you can guess where we're going to prefer you to take this out of.
The chief deputy reporter. What is the balance? Or, excuse me, the average of that?
The average, I'm sorry, what are you asking?
Asking, yes.
What do you mean?
They've got, 101 chief deputy reporter, and it goes up 29%, and the chief deputy, so the external midpoint is 45,840. Okay. I've been tracking also the 85% of the elected official salary, which is maybe how we're maybe looking at it potentially, but whatever, that's, 45,165. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And that is it, but I did use the average of the other chief deputies. So for that base, and then that does include Paula's longevity, because she does get longevity, and they asked that I combine those numbers for my line.
That would be her additional 62.2%, not the.
And also on that, oh, I'm sorry, on that salary study, our numbers weren't right. Across the top of that one page, like mine wasn't right, and there were a couple of others.
On the elected officials page?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that also that number is based on the correct number that should have been. That's that.
In my mind, I figure we'll look at the elected officials and chief
5%.
deputies a little bit differently and try to figure out, if we're trying to do like the 80% of that salary, I think that, that's gonna have to be an across the board kind of decision, not department by department, so. In my opinion only.
So, I'm sorry, back to the longevity. So there's 4,200 in longevity in the perpetuation fund.
That's for two of the deputies.
two of the
because they
deputies.
get paid out of perpetuation.
And so in the general fund, there's no longevity
It's included in with that number on Paula's line.
under chief deputy reporter.
I'm sorry, Paula's longevity is included in this amount in the general fund.
But that is only for 62.2%, not for bonus longevity that we will receive in December.
Hers is different. Paula's longevity is figured differently than the other two girls.
So her current salary is 38,209.
Yes,
You've already moved out of the recorder.
and that,
Chief deputy.
Oh, the traffic, oh, sorry. Not over that far. So as of the end of June, no, that's like a big chunk of money, but you still, you have 100% of your printing and repairs and maintenance equipment machinery.
and we do have some upcoming expenses with the printing and also with our office supplies, that will account for that.
Okay.
And our dues and subscriptions is based on 1% of the recorder's salary and then $20 a piece for each deputy. So that's what that is based on, and that's what that increase was due to.
What does professional services cover?
Did you,
Moved out of.
Oh, sorry. I have them all listed together. Sorry.
are we moving on?
So we're adding, the deputy two position is the one or the
Is
other.
it, yeah, it's in both places. So we'll leave it there at the moment, and we can go ahead and hop over to page 45.
Is that the recorder ID?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, you can tell me.
All right, recorder ID.
Where does that money come from? Where's that money come from?
It comes from when we record documents in our office, I can give you the breakdown of what happens, where it goes, if you'd like me to. When a deed and anything besides a mortgage is recorded, it's $25. And of that $25, $8 goes in the county general fund, $5 goes in the surveyor's corner perpetuation fund. Yes, and then 10 in the recorder's perpetuation, 1 in the county ID security fund, and $1 in the elected officials training fund. Then on the mortgages, they're 55, and $34 goes in the county general, 5 in the surveyor's corner perpetuation, $11.50 in the recorder's perpetuation, $2.50 in the state mortgage fund, and $1 in the county ID security fund, and $1 in elected officials training fund.
Who dictates that breakdown?
It's IC code 362710.
And then what is it spent on?
Which fund?
The professional services?
It is, we can use it for, to purchase, upgrade, implement, maintain redaction technology because, we aren't allowed to have social security numbers in documents that we record. So that's what it could be used for.
You already answered this question, so why is the balance still budget request for?
We have not had to use it currently. Our technology and what we use is covered, so we just haven't had to use that, but that's always budgeted each year.
Is it for the actual technology or a person?
You can use it for,
How do you guys do redact?
I'm sorry,
How
what?
do you do the redact?
Through technology, you can do a program. Mhm.
Okay.
And there are like laws on the horizon where Daniel's Law, some other laws where, judges, police officers, firemen, their information is protected. So that's something that possibly might, have to, our software company is really good fiddler. So a lot of times they're just already they're on the move with things and they implement things and, we don't have to really dip into that too much because they cover it with our software.
So this money would be used to pay a body to do it, essentially?
I would have to look and see what the, IEC code, exactly how that's spelled out, Matt. I just know that's what that fund it's, IC code, and that's what it can be used for, what I mentioned. But as far as the details, I don't know the fine details, but I could sure find out for you.
Because there's gotta be money in there then, right?
Yeah, well, what is the balance and what's the annual revenue that comes into that account?
The balance is $128,756, and, the revenue is, do you want last year's or as of yesterday?
Let's get both, since you got them both.
Okay, last year's was $16,909, and as of yesterday, it was $11,930.
Thank you, Dan.
Mm-hmm.
Your money would know where to go.
Maybe Jan can look up that IC code and see if it can be spent on anything else.
That's fine. Well, because we got a budget. We're gonna approve some kind of money to use, essentially.
Well, and it's outside of county general, so.
No, but I mean, okay, what do you ask?
All right, let's move on to.
Throw body in there too, Jan, okay, while you're at it?
And I can give you the numbers overall because the recorder's office really does contribute a lot when you add up those documents. Like for the year, what we put into our own fund in county general well covers what we spend or what we ask for from you guys. So if you'd like those numbers, I can give you those numbers too.
I believe you.
We believe you.
What's the last page, or next page?
Let's see, 58. This is where Deputy 2 is also located.
And contractual services, who do you pay and what for?
That goes to Fiddler and that covers, our, things like, Avid, which is our land records management system. That's what we use on a daily basis to do physical documents and electronic documents to prep, audit, process, audit, and post. And then it also covers, our, Laredo, which is our search engine that we use. A lot of, title companies, lawyers' offices, title searchers, I didn't say that. The public can come in and do searches, and it also, covers our, Bastion, which is our backup storage, so we don't back up with the county, we do our own storage, and that covers that, and then also our, hands-free, because statute is you have to have so many levels of backup, and so that helps with our microfilm, which is another form of our backing up of our documents. And with, like, if something were to happen in our crash, Fiddler can get us back up and running within hours versus days and weeks, sometimes with other, storage modes.
Do they only do it for recorders? Do they have
I know when the auditors, we're currently, doing that SCAM project, and I know when the auditor's office was considering doing it, they had talked to them about their backup as well.
And you happen to have the balance of the revenue on this account as well?
Yes, it's $1,166,190.79. And, we've already made the first portion of the payment for our skiing contract, which was, $55,092.47. And, different payments are due at different points, so the next payment would be $110,184.93. And then the final payment would be, after everything is integrated into our system, would be another $55,092.46. And that would all be, that comes out of our perpetuation, and so that would come out of that balance. So that would leave, after you deduct that total, what you'll have to pay in our SCAN project, it would leave our balance at $1,903.40.
You're paying that whole scanning perpetuation.
Yes. And then that pays our perpetuation pays 3 salaries in our office
And tell me again how the revenue comes in.
through our documents, through the deeds and mortgages that I read the breakdown.
You should give that to us.
Recording fee.
Well, it was
Do you have the revenue for this account?
Yes. Last year, excuse me, last year it was $325,932.51, and as of yesterday, it was $221,546.88.
That was in 2023 was 325K roughly, that's revenue.
Yes,
And then, I'm sorry, second one?
$221,546.88.
Probably makes
I'm
sense
sorry.
to leave that to
Okay.
do with that.
$221,546.88
Revenue for this year, correct?
as of yesterday.
So out of the deed, $25, 10 of it goes to the perpetuation.
And I can
The, mortgage is $11.50.
email that to you guys if you would like me to email that breakdown to you
Sure.
with the IC
That'd be
code.
great, just as reference. Thank you.
I'd agree with Mr. Hughes' statement of leaving Deputy 2 there.
Yeah. Well, everyone else agree with that? All right, let's make that adjustment.
Take it out of page 8,
Recorder, yeah. You knew that was coming, though.
I tried to have as much ready as I could.
0.
is bad.
All right, and then, let's see, do you have one more for us? You do, page 64. One is called Elected Officials Training Fund.
What page was that?
64?
I'm assuming since they all say the same thing, they're actually broken out for different departments.
Right, ours
Okay.
is the top, and then auditor, treasurer, clerk, and surveyor.
All right, one more time. So recorder,
And then auditor,
Okay,
treasurer, clerk, and surveyor. And each department budgets their own.
Board auditor.
Treasurer, clerk, and surveyor. I believe if I wrote it down right.
we're getting positive nods up here. Okay. Right.
Did the clerks go down? They were,
I wouldn't. It's okay.
what was the income last year and for this year?
Last year, $16,909, and as of yesterday, 11,930.
You have an answer. Here is not.
Feel like. I'm sorry. Sorry, it was 16,000.
909.
22 dollars
Yes. Or what
Revenue.
what was put into the revenue.
revenue. We're sitting on $119,000 roughly, or
I had the cash balance as of yesterday, $127,556.19.
So we did, so Matt was asking why can't we use this for the council training, and I know there was some conversation around that last year, and then this year, we were going into, I think maybe budget. Tanya and I contacted the LGF to get more State Board of Accounts to get more clarification on that. Yeah, and it did not include.
Well, it did,
But
if it's available.
if it's available.
That's how it read.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah, so it wasn't real clear. It was just basically saying, well, I
Maybe.
guess if everyone else has spent what they want to spend, then you can spend out of it for the, I
There
mean,
you
that's
go.
kind of how we read it.
the answer is yes.
Essentially.
All right, I don't have any questions. Anything else?
I think we're good.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Plan Commission. On page 25.
Thank you.
It's always nice.
Apologize, what page was
okay,
that?
perfect.
Good morning.
Five.
Just,
Okay, great. Making sure.
it's
Just
actually
check
right,
it on your
it's actually
laziness.
right here, but I couldn't see that far. It's in the perfect place. Sorry, what page? Nice.
Now, the papers are the same packet that I emailed you. Just the hard copy.
You guys only have one fund, there's only one, thing for them.
Right.
Yeah. On line 2, your secretary, 0 to, moving up someplace else for you.
We are asking to move our part-time secretary to full-time. That used to be a full-time position. It changed to part-time back in 2014. Since then, I think our office has asked every year for that to be moved back to full-time. She is the secretary for the entire office, and then also the building commissioners.
So moving from part-time to full-time, she also, that individual would also get, benefits,
Yes,
health insurance, so forth.
possibility, yes.
Okay, so you want $10,000 more money for an individual working 3 more hours a week?
Yes. We feel with the workload, that she does for the building commissioner, the workload that she does for the rest of the office, that it's warranted that we need somebody in that position full-time.
Principal planner went down.
Well, the numbers that are in the budget book are a little different than what we're currently sitting at. The numbers in the budget book were the approved budget for 2024. We did adjust those, at the beginning of the year. So if you look on page 1 of the attachment that I passed out, the duties changed a little bit in our office after the beginning of the year, so we did adjust those salaries, back in March. So the principal planner and the administrative assistant were changed back in March. They're just listed as what they were approved for the beginning of the year. That's kind of the same thing with community planner and planning technician. They're listed at a little bit higher than what they're currently getting because these were previous employees that had more time in. So when we moved positions, they went back to base pay.
Secretary is not on her sheet.
Oh, because
What do you have in the 390 account, please? Other services and charges.
Oh, so that we are planning on the mandatory state live streaming the meetings. We based that on the fees that Mark was charged in the past to live stream meetings. We did ask him for a quote and haven't received that yet. But we have our plan commission meeting once a month and our BZA meeting once a month in this room in the evenings that will be required to be live streamed. So that is a budget to pay for that to be done.
Legal publications.
Legal publications are, so we have to put legal notice of all of our meetings in the paper. All of our BZA cases and plan commission cases. So that is the fees to the paper.
I guess I'm wondering why it was 0.
Oh. Some of the numbers of the, account numbers have changed. So,
They did.
yeah, we've been working with auditors on that one, but, it's at 2,000 and it hasn't changed. We didn't change that this year, from last year to this year. It used to be combined with.
Yeah.
And yeah, now they're separated out.
Your 311 account's almost doubled what's going on there.
So 311 is contractual services, so that is our plan commission, attorney. So that rate, what we base that increase on is we kind of,
looked at the amount of hours that he puts in for our office per month, looked at what that equals out to being. So we are currently paying him about $80.13 an hour. $250 is his normal rate that he would charge per hour. And the state minimum for a public defender is $100 an hour. So we want to get that, a little closer to what it should be. And that has not been changed. We do not know, at least since 2014. That has not been increased at all.
Have you come to us for an appropriation for this account this year?
No. No.
Are you anticipating it doubling next year?
We are asking to raise the rate that we pay him. We pay him a set monthly amount.
I'm sorry, tell me again what you're currently paying him.
$5,000 per year.
$80 an hour.
Yes. And that's listed on page 2 also. And we're just asking it to be increased to 9,000.
So really, and what about the other services and charges? I'm sorry if you explained that already.
Oh, that's the live streaming
That's right, okay.
of the meetings.
Okay, so between the live streaming, the lawyer increase, and the difference in the secretary line item, that's a majority of your increase, right?
Yeah, the only other thing on the budget lines we increased was, operating fuel. And that's just based on, that hasn't been increased since, 2010, or at least, well, that one is at least 2014. And that's just based on average gas prices. We have 2 vehicles. And then our other major ask was in the, building commissioner salary.
How do you pay for those vehicles? Do you lease them, or
No, we've purchased those in the past.
is that what transportation covers, or that's something else like mileage?
Transportation covers, yeah, mileage. Transportation would also cover mileage for if we had to use our personal vehicles for anything. It would cover those reimbursements. That has happened a couple of times. Would cover any maintenance or car washes or anything like that.
What'd you say, operating supplies, 220? Went from 0 to 1,500, you were taking?
That was a change in number as well.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's coming from. So for those that don't have it, so the building commissioner line item. 101, 110, 101. Yeah. The level is 46,225. Midpoint is 5671.
And
This, 56 what? 56 what? Pardon me, Matt? 56, no, 50,671.
The extra high salary is only 58,272.
yeah. And I did include, a page in there where we kind of did our own salary comparison. We looked at the salary study, I believe, relies a lot on titles and duties and that type of thing. Our building commissioner would be very comparable to other building commissioners, but he is in that department alone. A lot of the other building commissioner offices have a building commissioner, and then they have several inspectors underneath them.
they have a zoning officer, they have an HVAC inspector, a plumbing inspector. So I did include a page in there where where we listed several. We listed City of Muncie, Yorktown, Kokomo, Richmond, Newcastle, Union City, and Anderson, just to kind of give you an idea of the normal numbers that are in a building commissioner office. And those salaries together,
So you're
compared
saying
to
that,
ours that's doing all of those.
you're saying that, so we have a building commissioner, or building, oh, wait a minute, this commissioner,
Yeah, so he's technically the building commissioner, the zoning administrator, and the floodplain manager.
I got you.
And then we just listed the employees of other comparable offices.
Secretary, right, okay, so we're spending about 61 grand. You're saying the city of Muncie has a building commissioner, a zoning inspector, an HVAC inspector, and all these other ones underneath it? To the tune of 336K?
I'm sorry,
Yes. The city of Muncie has all of,
yes,
this is accurate?
yes.
Basically it reads, who, anyone who's not looking at it, city of Muncie has 27 square miles of, and they have 9 people listed. We have 2 for 350.
And we listed at the bottom the source that we got that from, and it's available, yeah, it's publicly available.
Correct me if I'm wrong on this, I feel like there was conversation at one point about, is he gonna help try to contribute towards salary?
That's for for your salary, right?
Yes.
They did, or is
I,
that allocated in here?
no, I recently,
I think. attorney has
inquired
a
about that.
comment.
Yeah. Okay.
We have, we've been looking into that and have actually determined that was never formalized and complete.
Thank you.
Which would be the commissioners?
It was a draft agreement between the commissioners.
You might come in closer to the mic for us,
Sorry.
sorry, Brandon.
Yeah, it was, in a local agreement that was drafted between the commissioners and the, city of Muncie.
And never executed,
Yeah,
by either side or one or the other?
I don't know the answer to that particular question.
So, the one email that I received, I had emailed John Brook about this, and his response was that he remembered drafting this and submitting. He never received a signed copy or an executed agreement. So I can provide you with his response.
Please.
That's like $20,000.
I feel like that was the number.
Yeah, I think you are correct. I remember that's tough.
Now, if you're in the city's shoes and you're looking at the number of money they're spending versus what we're spending, I guess I could see the challenge with that too, but,
Way more revenue than,
well, yeah. And how they run their business is not our problem, but, we at a minimum need to get that addressed.
But, the theory behind that was the executive director, he has to go before the city council as well as the commission to present zoning cases, she or a member of her staff. Building inspector is strictly operated areas and
That's right, you're right. So yes, there is validity to that. Colleen, that would be great.
Yeah. I have a copy with me. I just think it's back in my chair.
Okay.
And then I also did include a lot about our sources of revenue to show that, even an increase to what we're asking for in the building commissioner's salary would be covered by the amount of revenue that is brought in by his office. As of, well, August 28th, he's already exceeded that amount in revenue. Let me see here. Hold on, that's our office. Permits so far this year have brought in $66,000, 364. Contractor registrations and renewals have brought in 15,500. So his portion of our revenue has already surpassed what we're asking for in his salary increase.
True, but over the 5-year span, which I appreciate this view, thank you very much, because this shows a 5-year almost, layout of the revenue and the averages, right?
Yeah.
And like last year, 116% of the budget was covered by the revenue brought in. But the year prior to that, it was only 86%. Year before that was 148. Like, what accounts for the variation?
Yeah, so it fluctuates some. We are trying to, so on the transportation side of our office, we get reimbursed for the hours worked. We account for those very closely now so that we can get reimbursed for as much as possible. So I think we're getting more in that area now and will continue to get more in that area. I don't think Marta did a timesheet on that because she was doing other things. I spend a lot of time still on the transportation aspect because we haven't filled my previous position, so I'm still doing that. So I'm still getting a lot of reimbursement. On the building commissioner side, that fluctuates with the types of permits that are applied for. For example, when we had CanPack, that's going to bring in very exaggerated amount of money compared to what normally is brought in because of those fees. So it's just based on the building permits are based on square footage, whether it's a commercial project or a homeowner project. So that is how that fluctuates.
Excuse me, when was the last time you looked at the fee schedule? The permit fees?
I know he's looking at that now. I don't know. Yeah. So 2020 was maybe the last time it was adjusted. I know Tom is currently looking at that to, because we're having to add in some things as far as we had to add in some, solar fees. We had to add in some fees for some things we're doing with DNR. They're a little bit, they have more guidelines to meet, with the floodplain and so forth, so.
What's the approval for those fees? The approval process, if there's gonna be a change.
Yeah,
It's just done by the planning commission. They have authority to set their own fees, I believe.
they will be approved by the commissioners, yeah.
What goes to the
Yeah.
commissioners?
We would present those to them and then they would approve that. Or not.
Happened in 4 years. 372. 372, 753. What am I missing here? It's the.
The 372 is what we approved for the 23 budget.
I got you. I'm sorry.
Brought in.
You only put the 393, 988. You didn't put the 444 in this list. So right now he's covered 67% of the budget of this year. But for next year,
Yes.
50.
Yeah, and our total asking is on page 2. Yeah, the 444, 160.
Which again, on average, probably doesn't quite cover that.
We're just trying to point out that we cover
Yeah.
Gotcha.
we cover a lot, we get reimbursed for a lot. And those reimbursements they go back to county general, so.
And the 20 of the 50K should be covered by the city. Thanks for putting this together.
Anyone else have any additional questions?
I think Ron Quakenbush offered to, I don't know if he can speak,
Oh,
but he
come
offered,
on.
he offered.
Go do it, go ahead, Ron.
Eileen, I do have one quick question. In the chart you put together of the surrounding cities,
Uh-huh.
is there any other employees in the city of Muncie that you didn't list there under their building commissioner?
Well, that's what we could find posted.
Okay.
So,
Do you think something's missing?
No, it was stated that there were 9 employees listed there and only 2 in the Delaware County box, but if Delaware County actually has 9 based off your other chart, employees in their office, I was wanting to know if there were other employees in the city of Muncie's office as well.
like combined, how ours is combined.
Yes, ma'am.
No, are they a separate office? Yeah, we just,
They're separate, but if they get behind, they will help each other out.
okay,
But they are actually assigned to particular duties. But if the electrical inspector gets behind and she'll ask for help from somebody, and then we'll go help her. Or if she's on vacation.
All right, Ron, what do you got for us?
Well, I'll just announce that I'm Ron Quakenbush, former home builder and former developer, former commissioner, and former councilman. And I'd like to bring the councilmen that are here that up to date on this whole program. The Home Builders Association back in the 70s, 80s was supporting a licensing program. When I became commissioner, I could not get support for the licensing program. Up to that point in time, we had a zoning administrator with a full-time secretary in a separate office. And that's where you went to make sure you were properly zoned before you build a house. There was no commissioner and no fees, no building commissioner, no inspector whatsoever. So that program was created in the 80s with a full-time building commissioner, zoning administrator, and zoning kind of was under the plan commission in a way also. Those were paid by the general fund and there were no fees. Once we went into the registration fee and the permit fee, that's what this young lady, and I've never met her before, so she didn't even know my name. I volunteered. But I'm supporting the fact that you now get revenue from the fees and the registration, which we didn't get originally. Then when we got into the tax caps and austerity, that department was closed. Period. The building commissioner was moved to the plan commission. So I'm here to support the full-time secretary in the plan commission because that's all the help the building commissioner has. The building commissioner originally had a full-time secretary, the zoning administrator before that, and as far back as I can remember, had a full-time secretary paid out of the general fund. So I just support when you're considering, and Mr. Mokel, if I were sitting in your chair, I would have asked exactly the same question. 3 hours more work for $10,000. But you're getting a part-time person in place of actually 2 full-time people because she's still there for the plan commission also. And the plan commission does a lot of grant work and et cetera, for the city of Muncie. And it's a joint Muncie, Delaware County Plan Commission. So I would support a full-time salary at this time. And for many years, I did not. I honestly was with you, Mr. Mokel, but at this time, I think it's time to consider it. Thank you.
I always appreciate a history lesson from Ron, so. And they usually start back in the 80s.
Things were tough.
All right, do we have anything else for Eileen? I don't believe so, so let's move on. Thank you. Coroner. Green. We're now on page 13.
hello, Gavin Green, Delaware County Coroner.
that awkward silence while we're all.
Yeah, it was all, it's fine. Thanks. Sure does well.
Rarely do we see contractual services going down 311.
The contractual service has gone down because of our autopsies. We're trending currently to not have as many autopsies. We could probably reduce it more if we wanted to. However, Delaware County, as I spoke last week at the council meeting, that Delaware County is leading the state and probably the nation in dealing as a result of, or death and the result of dealing. And so we're autopsying. We could normally do like a desktop or an external autopsy, but we're making sure that all those are autopsied now. And so that's why we've reduced it, but not reduced it so much that it would be even that more significant. With the COVID deaths and the epidemics and all of the high overdose fentanyls back in the day, we're not seeing as much.
Operating supplies went up a bunch.
The operating supplies, one of the things that we put in there, the coroner's office does not have room, nor do we want any vehicles currently. But what we did is we added in there contractually to add emergency lights to the coroner and chief deputy coroner's vehicles. We felt that that would be a good investment instead of purchasing vehicles and having a gas card all the time. A great example was we recently had an accident on 550 South, approximately 3:30 in the morning, and a sheriff's officer didn't know who I was until I had to get out of the car and kind of show him my badge, and they said, "Oh, it's you, okay." The thing is that I was at the end, because I'm the last responder, I was blocking all the emergency lights, so if anybody were to come up, there was a police car in front of me, but I just had my flashers on. So those would be able to be taken off at any time if needed, just as if we give EMA volunteers lights that go, the magnets on top of the vehicles, we'd have those, just the red and whites. And that vendor is a vendor that works with Delaware County EMS and EMA right now. That's the same vendor that equipped the communication cars for 911. So it's a reputable vendor.
How many cars are you talking about?
Just two. Because Gary and I are on call 60 plus hours. So mathematically, we're going to be the ones that would be called out more. So we do 12-hour shifts each one of us for 5 days each.
One-time charge?
Yes.
Get sirens?
Yes. The one thing I did want to point out that I did reach out to Ball Brothers Foundation to do a rapid grant. I reached out and presented this for the lights for this. It's going to be approximately $11,000, as well as a grant to do training in Las Vegas for fire fatalities. And Ball Brothers came back to me and said that they're very interested in the fire fatality training, but at this time that the lights, they would not. So I talked to Jenna over there, and we're going to present that to them. So I did look at other revenues to bring that in.
Is that fire conference, fire Las Vegas training, the reason your conference training went up?
No, our dues went up a little bit. Rhiannon, yeah, just the dues went up a little bit, and trying to bring on more deputies, and those deputies, they cost, it's a per person.
Yeah, conference and training went up basically 100%.
Yep.
50.
And that was my conference in there as well. And so I talked to a couple council people, and I just wanted to put it in there and see what happens.
Once again, we'll take it out.
Yeah.
Office supplies.
When do you expect to hear back on like possibility of a grant? How quickly does that?
I don't know. I can find that out.
That was 11,000?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, wait, the 11,000 was for the
for the lights.
lighting. What was the fatality training?
It's around like $6,400. And so the rapid grant, so we'd have to pull and probably move some money around to cover the rest.
I appreciate you looking for outside
Mhm.
opportunities.
The other opportunities is we reached out to the State Board of Accounts and other agencies because we feel as if our fee schedule for trying to bring in additional revenue is probably the weakest in the state. And I have never gotten such a blatant shut up and stop asking these questions, and you are getting what you get and don't throw a fit kind of deal. So they said, no, you can't raise it. It's a state statute. And I said, okay.
Because everybody charges the same.
No, it's because I actually used the health department as an example because it's $20 for a death certificate. And I said, why can't we just charge a flat rate as well? And it's actually some state ordinance that says that that is the health department, that's what they can charge. But we cannot fall under the other ordinance of you can't charge more than what it costs for the work product and the actual cost that it makes. And I said, it's the exact same thing. Death certificate, autopsy report's the same thing. And they said, like, I went like 3 or 4 rounds, and that's when I finally got the polite, thanks, but no thanks. Stop talking to us. Because, yeah, because currently we're bringing in roughly $400 a year. So it's nothing to, like, go home and scream at everybody saying, look at all this money we're making. So,
Can I ask you an uncomfortable question?
yes.
Relative to this salary comparison from this study and the coroner averages, why do you think there was such a stark difference between, Rush County pays their coroner 13 grand.
Well, you've got to, so if you look at those breakdowns, you got to look at call volume and you got to look at where they rank in domestic violence, where they rank at in deaths, looking at the prosecutors, how are they prosecuting? There are some, when you go to our coroners conferences, they'll say if they found a needle and white powder around it, it's a drug overdose, and they won't even autopsy it. As we talked about with Marion County, they'll look at it and say it's a gunshot wound. No need to. So you don't know what calls they're going to, what they're autopsying. And if you look at that breakdown, I did this 2 years ago. Roughly, if you look at the counties that are the same size as Delaware, so if you look at Clinton County, they are only doing roughly 246 cases where we did like 600 plus. So then I broke it down on a per case basis, and we were making like $5 a case, and they were making like $18 a case.
So who's determining how many cases you're gonna have to do? Who makes the determination?
Well, it's gonna be,
What requires an autopsy and what doesn't?
well, it's gonna be between myself and the other coroners, and then working with the prosecutor's office, and or a call comes into the hospital, and the hospital might not know if it should be a coroner's case or it is a coroner's case, so they're gonna call us and say, hey, do you wanna investigate this or not? Well, Balmoral Hospital has a policy that if someone is admitted for less than 24 hours and passes away, they immediately call a coroner. Well, we have to then pay somebody. So if it's not myself or Gary, it's one of the deputy coroners, and they're getting paid $25 saying it's not a coroner's case. It was Grandma Ethel, who is 95. It was natural, but we're still paying our part-time deputies $25 for every one of those cases. And so that's where it's hard to say when you look at the county sizes versus the caseload, it is very subjective. It's very,
Do you think they're making money like a deputy coroner, where they're making it on not a salary, but more of a stipend or whatever, like per case basis kind of thing or something?
I don't know. I can tell you that Madison County, the way that Madison County does it is they've got a lot more part-time deputies, and they're all salaried. So you could have 10 cases or 0 cases. They're getting paid $12 an hour, for 12-hour shifts. And they have to, and they work 3 shifts a week. So they're getting paid, and we looked at that, my predecessor did, to just say, hey, let's just make this nice and even, and we just know what our part-time is all the time. But that didn't go over, that didn't seem feasible, because it was, we're gonna err on the side of our part-time budget versus just blowing it out of the water just in case. But to your point, Mr. Cantz, it's very, hey, I don't think we need to have an autopsy on this. They died because they were shot. Well, and they wouldn't even do an autopsy. Well, then when you present that to the prosecutor's office, which rightfully so, they'd be like, I need some more evidence. We need a pathologist saying it, not just you, Gavin, so.
Costs money to prosecute.
It does.
All right, thanks. I just wanted to get that out there on the table because we're gonna be having that discussion.
Yep. Any other questions?
You did pull 15 grand out of contractual into operating supplies this year, right?
Yes. But so I wanted to put an asterisk right there. We did not do any appropriations because we did have that money went back into county general because we tried to do an encumbrance and it missed the time and they didn't invoice us in time, like the other department that came up and said. So it went back to county general and then we asked for it back. But we have not had to come back and say, we are out of money, we need you to fund this.
What was the ending 2023 balance for that contractual services? These 311.
We're all good. We all good, guys?
Thank
Thank you. Visitors Bureau. LaShanta walk in. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
We are on page 39.
Page 39. Bench.
We just have one line item for you guys. It was a 4% increase. I guess this is the first time we've had you before us. Would you like to introduce yourself to the team?
Absolutely, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, everyone. I'm LaShanta Vaughn. I am the new CEO, Executive Director for Visit Muncie, Inc., also doing business as Destination Muncie. And I'm very happy to be here and happy to, promote the city and county for the betterment and quality of life for our residents and community.
Welcome to your first budget.
She's happy to be here now.
That's true. I think, Dylan, you've been to a couple budgets now, right?
Yes, I've had.
Okay.
I've been on the commission for, I think this is my second round.
Okay. Great. Do we have any questions about their contractual services line?
So this is all, innkeeper tax.
What was that?
This is all innkeeper
Yes.
tax revenue.
Correct, it is.
Does it flow through the auditor's office or does it come directly to your office?
It treasures.
To the treasurer, okay. And this is based on the anticipated revenue for 2025.
Right.
Good.
Good.
That's one more question.
What do you, and so, what all do you plan on doing with your $955,000?
A little over 40% of the budget goes toward marketing and advertising and, you know, promoting the city and county.
I'm sorry?
40%, a little over 40% goes toward marketing and advertising, as well as
And where do you do that, and how do you do that, please?
we have a marketing firm, Intersection, that we are in a contract with, a 16-month contract with. And we also just hired a director of marketing and community engagement. And we have an associate communication specialist, and they focus heavily on marketing and advertising.
For my own edification, so the innkeeper's tax flows through us, are we the only ones funding this, or the city gets part of that?
It's just the innkeeper's tax.
It all comes here through us.
It's nothing
Nothing
is deducted from the general fund.
Well, no, I meant does the city,
No.
City doesn't
everything
need
comes
any-
through us?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
And your 40% marketing, is that local or?
It's mainly outsourcing, because what we do is, what we want to do in 2025 is we want to work closely with the Horizon Convention Center in order to attend more conferences and trade shows, so that we are face to face with, you know, planners that actually look for destinations to host conferences and events.
And so, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, sitting on the PCA board, I know we're very excited to have that partnership and working together, marketing the community as one kind of unit is gonna be very beneficial.
I agree. Thank you.
So where does the other 60% come in?
You have to look at payroll as well as daily operational expenses.
How many employees do you have now?
We, including myself, we now have 5.
Okay.
So,
Rent and whatever.
correct. Utilities and IT services.
The balance in your account?
I'm sorry?
The balance?
I would have to get back with you on the actual balance. Sorry, I don't have that information.
At the end of 2023, it was 0.
No, that can't be.
On a monthly basis.
Okay.
It's
So
in and out.
it all goes out and goes,
In and
it all lives, okay, there's nothing there. All right, thank you.
And when do you meet, please?
When the board?
Yeah.
The last Friday of every month,
And what time, please?
9 a.m.
Thank you. And you have a holding company, correct? Is that how the money flows?
Yeah.
Is there another, I mean, there's a Visitors Bureau board,
Right, correct. So there's
another,
correct, there's two entities. There's the Delaware County Visitors Tourism Commission, which is, put in place by, this commission. And then the contractual
I don't
services.
think we have a vote on that, do we?
We don't have a vote on that any longer. The commissioners and the city have votes.
And then, so the contractual services line that you're seeing is a private nonprofit entity that we have created. So, we have 2 boards technically. We have a commissioners meeting, on those Fridays at 9, and then we adjourn and go into the Visit Muncie Inc. meeting, which is our nonprofit wing, which we, created a couple of years ago. I think it was January 2022. So that's what the contractual services is for. Visit Muncie Inc. has its own board and meeting and budget that we go through in the line items as well. So it's
They have a budget for.
because they are our operational wing. So the commissioners, we basically, so if we would have just hired Intersection as the commission to just do everything, it would be just another entity that has their own operation and make their own decisions. If we would have just said, hey, we're going to hire you to take care of this for us, that's basically what we've done, except that we have, I guess, a closer, we're on the same board, so it's technically another entity. So the commission is paying this other entity to handle, the operations of the,
contract.
marketing and visitation. Yeah, that's the contract, so.
Is your Visit Muncie Inc., is that open to the public?
Yes, yes it is.
Who sits on that board? Is anybody from the county on that board?
Currently, it's the same board members and the same, we have very similar bylaws, just the Visit Muncie accounts for the, nonprofit nature a little bit more. We have left in our bylaws room to expand the board, and we intend to, but when we first created it, we left the boards the same just to continue, everybody has their same appointments, but we've considered expanding.
And who from the county represents the county on?
Are there five? It's balanced. It's a balanced board, and then there's, I think you're right, 4 come from the county and 5 from the
Commissioners
city.
appoint 4 and the mayor appoints 5, and there's 9 total on the board.
Thank you.
How much of a raise are the employees getting this year?
As of right now, there's no increase. There is no, payroll increase.
Are we good?
Council,
Yes.
you may like to know the numbers that they have to turn in their, cash balances and interest accrued to us as well in order for us to do their budget within the gateway. And just to let you know, their operating balances, at the end of 2024, they'll have around 1.5 million. Also around the same for the end of in 25.
Their budget is under what they're expected, okay. Right,
So the balance then of your monies go into,
investments,
We operate, account with the Hoosier Fund, designed actually to try to invest and generate additional revenue. So we hold those.
As of our last meeting, we had, I think, 1.6 in that account, and we create anywhere from 5,000 to 7,000 in interest from that account.
So we see what goes in and out to them from us, but they're sitting on money.
Correct.
And that account is funded, so the number you're seeing in contractual services is 5%. I'm sorry, that
95.
we pay 100% of that, but every month the commission pays 95% to Visit Muncie Inc., and that kind of helps the commission keep, an emergency fund, basically.
which would come in handy in a year like 2020 when you didn't have people staying in hotel rooms, so.
Yeah, and you bring it up, I appreciate that. We actually didn't ask for any appropriations in 2020, and we were able to make it work on the much less expected budget that we had.
laid people off, didn't you?
We did close, for a while, we did close our doors, yeah, we did have some layoffs, but we were able to maintain, within the budget.
I'm good, anyone else? All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, Office of Info, GIS, Kyle.
It's your fair board.
I'm sorry, Fair Board. I already had you highlighted. Sorry, Kyle. 1 second. We are on Fair Board's page 72.
Have any questions?
How are you doing, Donna?
I'm fine.
What's the current balance or expected balance of this account for year end?
I don't know, just look to the, he can tell you.
11. Page 72.
My cash balance or my expense balance?
Cash balance is what I was after.
Keith'll have to look it up.
$385,000.
That pretty typical.
It has been for this year and last year. Prior to that, no,
Higher or lower?
a lot lower.
How'd the fair do this year?
We did real good.
Money-wise? Have you got the numbers yet?
Roughly 180,000, just on fair income.
That does not include expenses, though, correct?
No, no. That was just our income, and you know, every year, we just have to hope we have good weather. If we have bad weather, then our income drops dramatically. And we were slow on Monday and Tuesday this year. Both nights were down quite a bit, so we were surprised to really end up as good as we did. I think people just don't have the money to come out. I mean, kids' night, which is Tuesday, right? Tuesday night, yeah. This year it was really pretty terrible. Usually that's one of our better nights as far as the rides part, because we get 1% of that. It was not busy.
Yeah, it was it was very strangely quiet. And the weather actually, I mean, it looked like it was going to rain, then like it really didn't, and
Right.
it ended up being a really delightful, like
Yeah.
weather-wise week. I mean, it's always hot, but it wasn't as hot as it has been, so.
Yeah, and you know, the ride, the dollar amount for the rides have increased, and I just think a lot of families really can't afford that anymore.
You don't dictate that.
Cost of the
You
ride.
don't dictate the cost of the rides.
No.
I don't think what?
Dictate the cost of the ride.
Oh, and next year, and I guess a lot of fairs are going to this, which we may be, we don't know yet, are not even being open on Mondays and Tuesdays. We don't know what our situation's gonna be yet.
The midway.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of places are just going from Wednesday through Saturday.
How much would that cut down on your income, do you think?
I mean,
Seems like you almost need, I don't know, it seems to me like you almost need as many good days as you can get, because on your Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I mean, you could get rained out.
absolutely. And those are our major income days, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So I don't think the loss would be tremendous on a Monday, Tuesday, as far as our, like grandstand events and stuff. Our major event are the last few days of the fair.
Sure.
You've got an slight increase in contractual services.
I do, and that's, because the auditor's office won't let me split down my accounts no more. Everything's in that one account.
Okay.
And, I raised the amount for grandstands next year for our events, because they did go up this year. Had to come back and get additional appropriation for that. So I did raise the grandstand amount. Other than that, all the other amounts stayed the same. That is now within this one account. I have to keep a spreadsheet on my own to track all my events, because I don't want to keep them all in one account. I want to be able to track them. So,
Say again why you came back to us with an appropriation
for the grandstand,
for the grandstand, what?
it would have been for, micro wrestling.
That's right.
Make any money on that?
Hey, you got $385,000 in the bank, why would you come back to us and want more money?
I come back and get an appropriation to spend that money. You don't give me more money.
What
You give me an, huh? You don't give us any money. We raise our money. I have to
understand
come to county council to get an appropriation to spend that money. And so I need an additional appropriation in grandstand. That's why I come back before county
Right, 'cause
council.
this is outside of county
Yeah, this
general.
didn't come out of general.
I still can't
That's
spend
the
it
reason.
unless you
I
approve it.
understand your confusion.
It really wasn't important.
Like, I'm getting ready to come back before you this month to appropriate money for utilities. I'm completely out of, water and electric.
And then, equipment, you've doubled it, basically.
Just because, so we can buy equipment. But currently, the commissioners have been real helpful. Our current board president has done so much out there this year.
Trust me, I've seen it. A lot
Yeah,
of people talk about it.
yeah, and, thankfully, a lot of that is being paid out of the edit funds that the commissioners have give us edit money each year. Last year, we didn't spend most of it. This year, our president has painted, he's bought some equipment. I mean, he's just done a tremendous, the fairgrounds look wonderful. Next year, we don't know that we'll have that money, and, in case we need a piece of equipment.
What's the health insurance line item for?
County health insurance for our employee. We have one employee that's, you don't see her on here, she's paid through our contractual services through the accountant, but she's considered a county employee, so she can be on the county health insurance. I raised it $1,000 because I received no information from anybody on anything about the budget, so.
And I think we actually have someone coming to speak to us about health insurance, right, Matt?
4
So
o'clock today.
we'll have a better idea on that.
Yeah, so I went ahead and raised it just in case it's going up. I mean, usually I'm told to raise it 10% or whatever.
Right.
I got no information this year on anything, so.
Okay.
I just did. My liability insurances went up. Currently in 24, I had 8,600. I had to do transfers because it actually went up to 12,383. So I asked for 13. At the time when I turned the budget in, I didn't know 24 was gonna be 12,000, or I probably would have raised that even higher. But I'm probably not gonna have enough money next year for that.
For liability,
Uh-huh.
13's not gonna be enough.
I got it when it was 12,383 this year, and I had only budgeted 86. So I found money within the budget to transfer to be able to pay this year's.
They don't, they can't give you some idea, huh? Insurance is killing.
And that's only for the fair. That's only for a 2-week period of the fair.
That's not the rest
That's not the, yeah. That is just liability insurance for those 2 weeks. And it went up to $12,000.
Do you have another liability policy for the rest of the year, the other 50 weeks, or is that?
And the county fairgrounds is owned by the commissioners.
Just curious, if you are closed on Monday and Tuesday with no grandstand event, would your liability insurance be reduced
No,
some?
I don't know, we won't have a grandstand event. We won't have rides on Monday and Tuesday. I should have specified that. The amusement company, most fairs are not, having them there on Mondays and Tuesdays. We would probably still have grandstand again.
Thank you.
How would that coordinate with the 4-H?
4-H
That would still be going.
4-H is the week before,
A
and
4-H
up until Wednesday of the week of the fair.
It'd still be going.
Yeah.
And then other services and charges,
Uh,
390. Moved it from 55,000 to 71,000.
That's that one we just talked about.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, I'm sorry.
grandstand events. and
Grandstand events.
Open show, grandstand. There's 5 different things that's now paid out of one account.
Oh, I thought that was contractual services.
Contractual services is, hang on, with all this stuff changing, I gotta make sure I tell you right. Contractual services is our accountant, any contractual services that we pay for the week of the fair. all of our, we have one full-time employee. Right, currently, we have 3 part-time employees. And that's all paid through there.
So their contractor, or their, yeah, okay.
They're paid, we have a contract with the Miller and Company, who is our accounting firm. All of our payroll gets paid through there. Then they, in turn, make a claim, send it to the county, and it's, the dollar amount is then paid back to the account. That's the expo.
Is that just how it's always been, or?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anything else for fair? All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Donna?
All right, now Kyle, Office of Info. And this is on page 19.
Some info. Please hold. Which page? 19?
19.
Explain for the audience, Kyle, your Office of Info.
Again,
What's your job?
I am the Chief Information Officer, Office of Information and GIS Services. Every year, I always remind you that one of my largest line items is repairs and maintenance of software, and that's our GIS software for the whole county. That did go up this year because the maintenance amount went up, and usually that bill comes after budget submission, so last year it went up, so that's why it increased this year. That amount does get reimbursed 80% through the plan commission, so we get 80% of that back into the general fund every year. So that's about 21,000, a little over 21,000 that comes back. The next highest kind of line item is 311 contractual services. That's where we pay Schneider Geospatial for our parcel data maintenance. So all the parcel lines and stuff you see on Beacon, that gets maintained through that contract.
Under contractual, you said?
Yes. And that amount has gone up a little bit over the last couple of years. For this year, it was 11,496. So I like to keep just a little cushion in there in case it does go up. We usually get that bill kind of towards the end of the year for the next year.
Food and lodging, you pull that out someplace else? Or?
Yeah, it was all in like training before, and so I split it out per the changes to the account.
What's your technology background?
My technology background?
Yeah.
So I went through Ball State, graduate Ball State 2001 in natural resources and environmental management, and I had a GIS focus. So pretty much right after college, I started into GIS. I got hired into Plan Commission. Was there for 4 or 5 years, and then moved into the GIS fund. So.
Usually a CIO is CIO of all technology.
Right. Yeah, I would say the title maybe is a little misleading. Probably would have reworded that differently when we went through that kind of changes in 2020, because I definitely get a lot of calls for IT services trying to sell me stuff, and I'm like, no, that's Jim.
What if it were?
What if it were? I wouldn't want that.
Sure.
Yep. In terms of like the servers and stuff like that, that's not my expertise. Well, it's GIS.
I think we're like information, I could be wrong here, so correct me, but information was more like he's who does all of our like website and social media and like,
Exactly.
you know, helping back up Mark with the video stuff, or he goes out and does video and he'll do,
yeah, I tried to be more all encompassing, but then it kind of also put me in that, like what Matt was saying. Yeah, in terms of technology, but no. Maybe we'll look at renaming it at some point.
Yeah.
Just, I
Think
Matt's got
outside the
right
box,
idea.
you know?
About this.
I'm kind of
Not to play life
surprised
outside the box.
you didn't add an employee.
Not this year.
Yeah.
Probably next year, so be ready for that.
Okay.
Because I have to get someone in and trained to do what I do, because I have no backup. So when I'm on vacation, or if I leave, you're gonna be in trouble for a while to
What
get
about
someone
like a
trained.
part-time person or intern or something?
Not intern, that's a waste of time. I mean, you get them trained up on something and then they leave. So, I mean, I've had dozens of interns since I've been here, and for a while it was great because they helped us build up our system. Well, we're at a maintenance level now. We're not building new data really. So, now the skill set that's required, I would say part-time maybe, but it really needs to be a full-time person. I mean, I got another 10, 15 years before I retire. It's going to take, a good amount of time to get someone up to speed to take over. So,
You're gonna retire at 40?
yeah, exactly.
I think it, I speak in general for the council to, something you just alluded to, I'm sure you know, to either start looking around for a part-time person or something and maybe.
Yeah.
We'll see if you have any money too.
I mean, I'll do whatever I can, but it's going to be hard to find a part-time person that meets the requirements to fill. So, yeah.
You need to start looking now, so you.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, I always have an eye out for somebody. Just like everybody else, it's hard to find people to work in local government. So,
Same thing where I work at. They push retirement age. Their work.
Is that parcel software, the contractual services, is it coming due at the end of the year? Is that what you said?
no, it renews every year. So there's like a new contract every year.
Yeah, but only $500 has been spent to date.
That's not right.
That was as of June.
It was paid.
That's $500 left.
Oh, yeah.
Looking at this in reverse.
Yeah.
Sorry. Like if
Yeah, that's paid at the beginning of the year.
Sorry, sorry. The balance is $500, so.
Make your font larger.
It was actually, and I was looking at the other one, because that one has not been used.
Yeah.
Uniforms.
Yeah, so that was just a new one. John with EMA has been really good about providing me shirts and stuff, since I kind of work with them a lot in terms of EMA roles. So I just put that in there so I could get my own shirts and not have to take it out of EMA's budget.
Did he adjust his budget to take your shirts out?
Yeah, you have to ask him. He's up next.
No, I mean, you're very front facing out in the community. I mean, you need attire.
I tried to look as pretty as possible.
Anything else for Kyle? I think we're good.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. EMA.
Morning.
Morning.
Afternoon
Here
almost.
on page 27 to start.
Is this the right to know, or is this my budget that you're looking at first?
Just yours, just the EMA.
Okay.
So,
What page?
27.
27.
overtime pay.
Yeah, so I have two employees that fall into that overtime rule that they just put in. Corey and Heidi
FLSA.
both, yep, so we had to create that overtime. I'm probably one of the last public safety departments that does not have overtime. Sheriff, EMS, even county highway, we don't have overtime, so. But with that new rule, that comes and brings two of my employees into that bracket. So I'm just shooting in the dark here. I have no idea. I know Corey, I mean, myself and Corey both roughly accrue 150 plus hours in call out. That's comp time for Corey. So he would be
in that bracket to get overtime. Don't know what that would look like yet. And then the other thing that we increased was just the raises jumped up to the median from the salary study. So if you look at it that way, then it's roughly 30,000 in overtime or 31,000 in raises. And if you go to the raises route, then it obviously takes them out of that overtime bracket to receive overtime. Well, Heidi, she'd still be in it, but I mean, in the office manager, not very rarely does she have to go out on call outs, but throughout the day she would. But that's during business hours, so you wouldn't necessarily have to pull that much overtime for her. But it would take Corey out of there for sure, which would save a bunch in overtime.
Mm-hmm.
You do a lot of call outs after hours. So
In it's, I mean, they're in all three. They're in Comet, Pat, and Executive.
yeah,
Again, you have quite a balance left in your contractual services. 311, line 311.
this year,
Well, you're
it doesn't come out till usually the end of the year. Those are for our services for one call now, and yeah,
Pretty big chunk.
yeah, there's a big chunk that comes out for our one call now service, which is the alerting that we use for the county building and our volunteers. And EMS uses it, sheriff's office uses it for call outs for special teams and whatnot. That's what the one call now system is.
FLSA.
We're looking up right now. I was like, what is the magic number for January 1st?
Yeah. I think that's like 57 or something.
58,656 as of January 1. For January 1's 58,656.
But actually, Corey would still, he would have to go up, get out of that, he would have to go up another $100 and some dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Just to get out of that bracket. And
Right.
I'd still leave just Heidi in there, but just him and I.
How much overtime did Heidi have last year? Roughly.
He accrued last year. We had a couple of the severe weather things that we were in the office, so, 20, 30 hours, I think, of comp time that she accrued for
Comp
that.
time, yeah, that's what I-
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, I may have that.
Salary study was listed as deputy director as being non.
Deputy director, non-exempt.
That'd be
Is, non-exempt. Which would be the current status. Yeah.
But then you have like deputy director and E911, which shows exempt. Probably one for discussion. I guess because they don't actually. Yeah,
Maybe.
no offense.
We should be considered public safety. We are a branch of public safety, EMA is, but boys.
Protective occupations and law enforcement. Those initials. The deputy director of 911, E911 supervisors.
I consider you public safety in my heart, but
in the public safety realm, we are, so it just is not, for some reason, looked at that way.
Right, and so, like, how much comp time would the deputy director have accrued in a year?
Say that again now, I'm sorry.
I like, yeah, so if currently he's got a non-exempt position, so he's accrued comp time probably too.
Correct.
More,
Probably, I think last year he had 133 hours, is what he sent me, accrued last year.
of comp time?
Mhm.
Okay. It doesn't behoove us to have a position like that, it's not exempt.
Right. I would agree.
We'll deal with that, but let me go on my highlight list.
Anything outside of salaries we have questions with?
Everything else we had stayed the same, and we worked pretty well within that. I mean, since I've been in this position, I don't think I've ever had to come in for additional appropriations for anything. So we're good where we're at, I think everything else.
Yeah, utilities went up, or electric.
No,
No,
Moved
it went
She moved
down.
it.
I see, okay, I see
because
it,
it's a total
Separated
10,000,
it.
so with them splitting up electric and gas,
see it now.
we put more in electric.
Got it.
You guys have other funds?
Yeah, so that's, are we good with this one?
Not in our general budget. Oh, we have
Yeah, you've got one
our
more
state-
for us to look at.
the LEPC Right to Know Act, which we don't make any changes to that.
You said you made no changes
Yeah,
on page 42.
it stays the same. That's money that usually comes in from the state for tier 2 reporting.
Okay.
We've pulled some money out of it this year, but it's reimbursed by the feds because we had to do our multi-hazard mitigation plan update. So we use the funds to front the money for the invoicing, and then it gets reimbursed back into that line. We talked to Tanya about that,
I'm sorry,
but
so
other than that,
just quickly.
Yep.
Explain what that fund is for, just for my,
so that, the money that we spent was for our multi-hazard mitigation plan update. We had a contract with, Vantage Point Solutions to come in and update our county multi-hazard mitigation plan, so we paid for that out of LEPC money, which is the tier 2 reporting stuff, so all your EHS sites, which are extremely hazardous substances, any business or industry that houses hazardous chemicals has to pay a fee to the state, which we get that money back when they report. So that's where that money goes into. And that money can be used for training purposes for fire departments or responding agencies. So if we do spend any money out of it, it comes to our LEPC board who approves that to purchase equipment for fire departments or trainings or whatever.
so that money all go back to the community, basically.
Yeah.
It's funded by the state.
Yeah. What's the balance in that account and what kind of revenue do you receive every year? Roughly $6,000 to $7,000 a year comes into that. So I'm not sure what the,
At the end of 23, it was about 34,000.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we paid for countywide trainings for propane emergencies, or we've hired some instructors to come up and teach fire and the county, mainly for the county departments who don't have that in their own budgets to pay for some of that stuff. We host those trainings for them and bring them in.
Townships too?
Mm-hmm. Yep, correct.
If I may. Yes. They receive 7,000 in state grant every year with one machine. Okay. Good with that? Additional questions, guys?
And then just so, in case anybody wasn't aware, that of roughly 65,000 comes back in,
for our EMPG grant, which is our salary reimbursement grant. For our three salaries, 65,000, it got increased, so we get 65,000 back to the general for our salaries. That's a grant that we apply for every year.
The grant called?
EMPG, salary reimbursement. We're on the max end of that. Most we can get based off of population and all that stuff.
What was that amount again?
65,000 and some change, I think. Oh, we won't know. The last year's was 64,246, and it went up a little bit. This next year when we apply for it, so. EMPG salary reimbursement to the state.
You say you apply for that annually?
Mhm.
Okay.
Not to be confused with an EMP.
Right.
Anybody else?
All right,
Thanks.
thank you.
Great, thank you.
So we're at 12:10, so I don't know if you wanna. We got a long one ahead, so.
Yeah, let's go ahead and break for lunch now. I think that makes more sense. Let's come back at 1:15. We'll recess.